Third time lucky. I have to say I am well out of practice with this. Hello, internet. In 2022, I moved house in the April, did 3 videos over the course of the rest of that year, and then abruptly stopped uploading and never told anybody why or where I'd gone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Strawberry Tofu, and I'd like to give this whole YouTuber thing another go, but I've left roughly 5,000 subscribers like high and dry without saying anything. So I felt a bit weird just like diving right in with a new video without explaining where I had been and why I left. The channel's not going to look like this anymore face to face. I had kind of moved away from that anyway. So I'm going to hand over to like cartoon OC Tofu for the rest of this video. You get to watch some lovely speed painting of me redesigning the new OC, and she's going to talk you through the rest. Thanks, human tofu, I guess. In my head, and sometimes out loud, I've been calling the last 3 years my series of mostly unfortunate events. To give you a quick set the scene of where my head was at the beginning of 2022. My grandmother, who I was really close to, finally lost her battle with heart failure and cancer in 2020. I had never experienced the death of anyone or anything close to me before, and this hit me like a ton of bricks. I took on a lot of responsibility for everything to do with her death because, quite honestly, I didn't know how to process it, and my mum and granddad were not processing it well. Shortly after, my granddad, whom was severely disabled and my grandma had been the carer for, had one too many falls in their home, got diagnosed with dementia, and while we tried to make a situation where he could live with me and I be his carer, he was ultimately forced into a care home. Anyone who has seen dementia, obviously I don't need to tell you how bad it is. Again, I took on a lot of responsibility, mostly helping my mum organise his health stuff, but also mediating her stress around it. I think on average I was getting 3 to 5 calls a week of just her crying down the phone about something to do with it. At the same time, I moved house because I couldn't stay where I had been. In that new house, 2 pets died. One got by a fox, and the vets never found out what was causing her death while she was actively dying, but nowadays we suspect it was a large tumour that ultimately burst. It burst on a Sunday when there were no local vets open and we couldn't drive. It was traumatising. My partner still hasn't recovered from this. Then my friend had a mental health crisis and had to move in with us for their safety. Then just 8 months after moving, we realised we actually couldn't afford to keep living there, and ultimately in April 22, we moved 5 hours away from everything we knew into my grandparents' 1-bedroom old house which hadn't sold yet, where my grandma died in the only bedroom. Luckily, said friend came with and I never had to sleep in that bedroom, but 3 people in a 1-bedroom end terraced is cramped. Me and Mikey slept in the living room, but just to paint the scene a little bit more, it didn't have a hallway, so you literally opened from the street straight onto the living room, and there was a pub 5 doors down that kicked out every Friday night, and it was always so loud. And of course, living room and bedroom, I had to kick Mikey out whenever I wanted to record a video, and I always felt really bad for that, so not ideal. And that brings us to 2022. On the bright side, we were now close to my definitely dying granddad, and I'm glad I got to see him more in those final months. I didn't upload a video from the February until the August in 2022. In that time, we did that 5-hour move into their house in the April. He died in the July just before both his and my birthday because we share the same birthday. The entire house and my entire family caught COVID at his funeral. The funeral was 2 days before my birthday, and I got the positive test on my first birthday without him. I inherited the house, a blessing to no longer ever have to worry about having a roof over my head after so much housing insecurity in my 20s, which is why I say it's my series of mostly unfortunate events. And then because COVID doesn't let the body absorb any medication, my partner had to spend some time in a mental health hospital. And at the same time, I already had a ticket and hotel paid for to go to the London Pokemon Worlds, which I did release a video on. In the September, my dog Dizzy, who if you ever came to a Twitch stream, you might remember her. You could donate points for me to give her treats on camera. People liked it, I think. She was on streams a lot. That she was diagnosed with likely oral cancer and given 6 months to live in September. And from that point onwards, I was basically juggling my mental health, my partner's recovering mental health after his discharge from hospital, and the dying dog. I did release one video in September about my opinions on the Scarlet and Violet Pokemon, but I think by this point I was just really starting to not cope well. She died on the 6th of May 2023, the same day the king was coronated, weirdly. It was really surreal to be sat outside the vet's in the car, waiting for a vet to be free. But because of the situation, we obviously couldn't wait in the living room, and there are these bells of celebration going on all around because the king is getting coronated, and we're sat there for a obviously very not celebratory thing. A slightly deranged but fun fact, my mum is really good friends with the person who directs TV for all the royal funerals, weddings, and with that, the coronation. It was directed remotely at his house, and his wife chose to hold a small party at the same time. So when my mum got the call about Dizzy, they went direct to free while my mum cried in the office for a bit. I'm pretty anti-monarchy, so it makes me smile, I guess, to think her last impact on the world was inconveniencing the royal family pretty directly. But that's, at the end of the day, that's just trying to find something small to smile about within a pretty shitty time. That same day I left that house, I could not be in it without Dizzy or my grandparents, and we went to stay with my partner's family. My friend stayed in my grandparents' house, and me and my partner moved our entire lives into a single room in his mother's house, because that was mentally by far the better option. That summer my friend moved out, and in the October I finally got the balls to go back and clean it and put it up for sale. We finally sold it and moved into our new house back down south near everyone we care about, thank God, at the end of July this year, exactly 2 years since my granddad's funeral. While we had been crammed into a single room at my partner's parents', I had made plans to change up this channel to a vlogging travel channel. I'd customised my car to enable me to sleep in it, sold my PC, replaced it with a laptop so I could edit on the go, and I bought a lot of camping equipment. I think that basically I really wanted to escape, quite literally, everything that had been so shitty for the past few years, and making YouTube videos as an escape was the best way I could think to do that. Ultimately, I did try and film 3 videos, but I had a panic attack in every one, and ultimately decided that that probably wasn't a good idea. At the same time, all the stress from the last few years decided to physically manifest itself as a very stubborn stomach ulcer, which took about 6 months to diagnose and clear up. I lost about 10 kilograms of weight during this time, partially because it was hard to eat, partially because I'd put on so much weight from comfort eating after so many deaths that when it was hard to eat, I kind of lent into it because I'd become very overweight. That's obviously not advisable to do, I'm just saying how it was for me. So what is that? 3 or 4 years, 5 deaths and 4 house moves and a very annoying sickness later, I'm finally settled. I have an office again. It's a new build, so literally nobody has ever lived or, more importantly, died in this house. It's spacious and perhaps most importantly has a 10-year warranty on it, so I don't have to worry about it falling apart like my grandparents' house did, because their house was built in 1890. Mikey rehomed another dog very shortly after the first one died because he couldn't cope without her, and we rehomed 2 cats when we moved into this new house from a family member that couldn't look after hers anymore after her health deteriorated. Pandora, my owl, who you might know because she has an Instagram page where I take pictures of her with Pokemon cards. If you don't know it and want to check it out, I'll leave a link in the description down below. But Pandora is the only lasting piece of our previous family. I think I find it harder to pick up Pokemon games nowadays. I haven't played any of the new DLCs from Scarlet and Violet. I think partially because it reminds me of times gone by now. I'm sure I'll pick them up again in the future. That is very much what my relationship with Pokemon has always been, a duck in and out of it. And I still love going to Pokemon events with friends, but going forward, I think it's a smarter decision to pivot the content I make on this channel away from something I ultimately have very sad and sour memories surrounding now. So I guess the question is, what now? When thinking about this, my partner asked, what is something I can do every day without thinking? Their advice was that I should lean into what comes naturally to me. Well, I can draw most days, every day, maybe. I did draw and paint nearly every day for 3 years while I was in university. In primary school, it's what I was predominantly told off for, was drawing in all my workbooks. As a teenager, I used drawing as a coping mechanism, and my art A levels were my best performing A level. I obviously studied fine art at uni, and I always go back to it. There's actually a video that never made the light of day that I designed Gen 9 starters in a Gen 1 style hanging around on a cloud somewhere that I was trying to do at the beginning of Dizzy's cancer diagnosis, but I think I only ended up managing to complete 7 out of the 9 drawings, so it'll probably never be released. I want to do silly little art challenges, sometimes Pokemon based, mostly geek based. I want to design my own characters, and ultimately I want to improve my art along the way. I enjoy anime and fantasy and gay shit like Drag Race and furries. Not to say that furries is gay shit. I mean, thinking about it, I don't think I've ever met a straight furry, but it was meant to be a separate point. If you're along for the ride, hit subscribe and the notification bell. I'd really love to have you. I made a community post asking what you guys thought my first video back should be, and second to this, it was drawing drag queens as Pokemon gym leaders. So I'll most likely be aiming to do that next. I don't plan to have a release schedule because I'm mentally and physically still recovering. I was actually, as of recording this, at the beginning of this week, I was in the urgent treatment center in hospital because I was experiencing like prolonged pain that was starting to interrupt my being able to do things. And the conclusion that the GP made was that I've been under so much stress for so long that there is cortisol and adrenaline basically stored in my bones. That now has to work its way out, and that's going to hurt. So I have to try and stay as relaxed as possible to make this process as easy on my body as it can be. But if I can do a video every 2 weeks, I think I'll be happy with that. But no pressure on myself either. I hope you've enjoyed the speed paints of the updated OC. I'm really happy with her, so let me know what you think about her in the comments below, I guess. But let me know how you guys have all been in the comments below for the past 2 years. I'd love to hear. And if you've got any drawing challenges that you'd like me to do, anything you can think of, please also let me know. But for now, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys in the next one.